Okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Classics from Known Classics. This is episode number 28, 25, and double number 27, 19. So, with this one, we're wrapping up volumes this one. Yes, long-running volumes. They are finally done. First up, we're wrapping up the first volume for Excalibur and talking about the second volume. How long is the second volume? It's 4 issues, and it's in this epic collection here. We have Excalibur Epic Collection, Volume 9, You Are Cordially Invited. Yep, this book collects Excalibur, number 116 and 125, X-Men Limited, number 19, X-Men True Friends, 1 through 3, and Excalibur, 1 through 4. Written by Ben Raab, artwork by Chris Claremont. Chris Claremont does I think he does the True Friends miniseries. Here are your artists for each one. You have Dale Ingersam, great artist. Rick Lenardi, good. Jim Calafor, okay. Trevor Scott, Mel Rabi, and Pablo Ramadi. The cover art you saw there, that was Al Davis. And the back of the book is basically Pablo Ramadi, who is one of the artists of the book. Avalon Studios and Dave Kemp. The final issues of Excalibur Volume 1 covers the time period of January of 1998 and concludes in October of 1998. Yep. The Excalibur Volume 2 was published in the period of February of 2001 to May of 2001. So, yes. So we start out with Nightcrawler, where he's fighting other stuff here. It's okay per se. Megan, at this point, I think Ben Raab probably knew around this issue coming out. He probably got word the book is getting canceled really soon, so he probably told, "Hey Ben, your book is not your run is not selling really well, so we're gonna axe the book issue 125." Yes, kind of a strange number in that, but at least a double-sized issue. Yep, so we're now with the X-Men and of course the Starjammer stuff. Really interesting stuff here with this one. And it continues on in the next issue where we have Megan saved by Pete Wisdom. When they fall, look like they're in Venice. And of course, he of course knows that, and then of course they save, and of course you have her use of powers to save Doug Locke. Yes, Doug Locke. You have Nightcrawler basically taking out a sword. A lot of really fun stuff here. Oh, by the way, the romance between Megan and Colossus, it's like, yeah, it's not even brought up here. Like it was there at the beginning, and my guess is that, even though this was the 90s, my guess is Marvel must have received letters from fans when the issues came out about Megan being with Colossus, and that probably got some negative backlash. This issue is all about BAMFs. For 118. 119 is Death Dreams, basically, because we have Bastion and other people. This later leads into basically the team. Oh, by the way, we kind of wrap the story with Doug Locke here. He's taken over by the Technovore. Yes. And then moving on to X-Men number 19. Yes, 19. Yes, 19 issue of the series. I probably am going to put this on the list at some point to review this because I've reviewed the first few issues, a handful of issues of this book so far. Yep. Okay, I got to the X-Men Unlimited issue. Yep, so... Alright, so... Yeah, then we have... And apparently the whole thing with this one is like, oh, we see the Ringmaster, I think the Master, and then he just transforms into Halcyon. Yes, the demon who is in love with Ileana Rasputin. Yes, the demon in love with a little girl who got aged up when she lived in his realm. Yes. It's like every time I see this guy, I'm like, I really want to punch him for basically falling. Basically, it's like his obsession with Ileana. It's like, it's not been there recently, but yes, this guy has been obsessed with her for years. To the point where I like to crunch my fist up and punch the face every time I see him because of what he did to Ileana. And I have to do with Bellico there. Of course, he pops up again here. Oh, yeah, and he has Amanda Softon. Yes. Who is Kurt's adoptive sister, who he's in love with. Yes. Who was actually recently featured in the third volume of Excalibur by Chris Claremont. Yep. Now, here at 120. 5 issues left, and this volume is done. There's more here with Douglock here. I thought, yeah. Yeah, the whole thing with that, it's like the whole thing with him being taken away by his own people was just dropped. And then, of course, it was Legion. Then eventually, they decide, okay, let's go rescue Xavier after he was taken captive by the U.S. government because of events of Onslaught. They have Excalibur, the X-Men, of course. Yeah, they free him. And then, like, Brian comes back after being absent for a little while. Yeah, he took a brief leave of absence for the book. And then, like, comes back. He basically reconciles with... He pops up at the end of 122. And why is he here? Well, it gets that. Oh, by the way, Mimic is back. Yes, Mimic is back in the book. So, he's back with Megan again. Yeah, the whole idea of hooking up a Colossus dropped. My guess is either that was Ben Raab's idea to do that, or probably wasn't out of there, and he eventually said, no, we're not doing it anymore. So she hooks up back up with Brian. What's the end of this issue? He poses to her, and then the final issue is their wedding. Yep, their wedding. The big bashful wedding. Yep. It of course leads to issue 125. Yeah, where they get married. Yep. And this marriage is still sticking. Yes. Yeah, that's the weird thing about this. They're one of 2 or 3 marriages in Marvel Comics that's still sticking. That has not been undone by some other writer. And also, they're one of, like, this couple is one of, like, 3 or 4 to actually have a child. Yes, a child revealed in the X-Men Gold Annual. And if you're curious, what other couples in Marvel Comics are still married? Aside from these 2, there's Reed and Sue Richards, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. I know, obviously, these 2. Black and Medusa are still technically married, despite they were separated, but yeah, they're still married, despite the fact she's cheating on him with Johnny Storm and Gorgon, for reasons. But yeah, these 2 are still legally married. Trying to think, who else? Well, you got Northstar and his husband. You have Mystique and Jesse, who just got renewed their vows just recently. There is Gambit and Rogue. And this marriage happened in 1998, and it's still around. Yes, still around. And then, like, right after the wedding, so they immediately get married. So Colossus, Kitty Pryde, and Nightcrawler all go home. Yeah, they go back to the X-Men for the really good wedding. Yeah, really ruin moon people. Just basically, oh yeah, we're going to go home. And then, like, then we have Chris Claremont doing, like, a, like, True Friends. It's mostly put like a Kitty Pryde miniseries. It's kind of like what Kitty Pryde, a little adventure for her, right after the cancellation of Excalibur. Probably just before. It kind of explores her family. That's kind of what this book is. And then moving on to Volume 4, Volume 2, which, it's just a 4-issue miniseries. It's like, okay, let's try to bring back together, and of course Wolverine's here too, let's bring back together Excalibur. It's almost like the best way to describe Volume 2, it's a reunion tour. That's basically what it is. It's like, Marvel had no plans to continue Excalibur as an ongoing, they brought it back. So I was like, hey, let's have a brief reunion of Excalibur, where a team is comprised of Megan, Brian, Black Knight, and a couple other people, And this is your lineup for the entire book. And of course, Ben Raab writes it. Not sure why they picked Ben Raab, the same guy who his writing killed the book. Yep. But yeah, that's what I'll talk about for Excalibur Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 2 is basically, like I said, just a reunion tour. But it's a pretty good miniseries. I don't think it's terrible per se, but I kind of enjoyed it. So, final thoughts on Excalibur Volume 1 and, well, I'm going to include Volume 2 in that. I love the first volume for Excalibur. I thought it was an excellent book. No real bad issue, per se. I do disagree with the whole thing of Colossus being with Megan briefly. But aside from that, it was an excellent book. No bad issues. I mean, here are your best writers of the book. I mean, you started with Chris Claremont. Good choice. Warren Ellis had a really good run. A run I really enjoyed. Ben Raab's was interesting. I don't think it was terrible. The guy who came before him was actually pretty interesting too. Lobdell had a run in this book. Yes, Scott Lobdell breathed through this book. Because it was 90s. Seems like he has read every single X book at the time. He wrote this. He had a run for Alpha Flight. Let's see. He had a run for Uncanny X-Men. X-Men. It's like all the major group books he got a chance to write. A lot of them anyways, but not all of them. But yeah. Good book. Give it roughly 9 out of 10. So with that, basically, I'm done with Excalibur Volume 1. And, of course, Volume 2 as well. So you're probably thinking, okay, what's left for Excalibur? Well, it's a couple quick books. Next will be basically Volume 3, which is collected in 3 trades. I will be discussing in the future. And, of course, Volume 4 technically I got done, so don't have to worry about that. So, wait, you said 3, and there was 4 recently. Was another book? Yes, there's one more. Written by Chris Claremont too, and the next New Excalibur. And yes, I do count that as a Excalibur book, because it ended up being their volume per se, but they're like Volume 3, where that's unofficially Volume 4, even though it's basically just a different title. But I count that because it's Excalibur. And that was actually the very first Excalibur book published when I was start reading comics. One of only 2. The other being, of course, the recent book that came out with. Alright, next up we have is basically Alpha Flight, issues 121 to 130. The final 10 issues of this book. Written by Simon Furman. Now, I kind of mentioned before, this guy was the final writer for Transformers Volume 1, who was brought back to Regeneration 1. The first issue here has Alpha Flight team up with Spider-Man. Yes, Spider-Man gets appearance issue. So the X-Men here too, because why not? And of course, Rhino is here. Yes, and mostly put is just a guy casting mirages, where it looks like they're fighting the Ferris twins, the Beetle, the Rhino, and Mandrill, even Dr. Octopus. Yeah, it's like, okay, let's cast a bunch of illusions. Maybe people think we're fighting a bunch of villains. Yeah, but it was a really fun issue. Moving on to 122. 122 is Holy Terror, which is a Infinity Crusade story tie-in. Yes, Infinity Crusade, which Zinkara is going to review that next, really soon. Yep. And in case you're curious, though, like what issues part of the Infinity Crusade crossover was Excalibur what issues were tied into the story? It was just for Alpha Flight. It was issues 122 to 124. Yeah, for these 3 issues. Yeah, still it's basically dealing with the holy stuff. It's a bit of a religious storyline, and then jumping to 125, which no crossover. Yes, brand new team for a deadly mission. Yep. And yeah, we're getting to the very end of this book, sadly. Yeah, this issue here is mostly put just, oh yeah, we have a new box. Yes, the original look, they abandoned that for this look for some reason, which looks like a ripoff of the Beetle. Yep. And it's basically like, it has nothing much to do with Alpha Flight per se. It's more of an issue focused on Mass Jeffries. And then we'll move on to 126. 126 to 127 is another 3 issues that deals with, it's basically a story involving Shaman. And then comes the last 3 issues of this run, called No Future, which, thanks to events of the story arc here, Alpha Flight is suspended from duty. Yep, and the book ends. Kind of a very whimper note that they basically just kind of they suspend activities for Alpha Flight for a while, well, until they get relaunched. Yep. And if you're really curious though, like, the next volume doesn't come out. By the way, this last issue was released in 1994. Next book would not come until 3 years later. And it's not as long as the first volume for the series. Sadly, no. Yep. But, pretty interesting issues. Nothing really bad here, per se. I'm going to give the final 10 issues roughly a 9 out of 10. Final thoughts on Volume 1 and Simon Furman's run on the book itself. Simon Furman's run. Really interesting. Excuse me. I thought it was really a really original idea to give them... first, they had unique uniforms they start with. And then this one, they basically retire those and let's have all wear the same exact costume for the rest of the book. It's interesting, though, the fact that Simon Furman basically took over the book for the last couple years the book's run. Still, I thought it was a really good book. Fun. No bad issue here. But as for the volume itself, oh boy, this was pretty lengthy per se. I've been reading this thing for quite a while, and now I'm glad to put this behind me. Yep. Oh, by the way, the artist for these many issues, I forgot to mention this before. The final artist for these issues was, for some of these issues I'm talking about here, 3 issues are drawn by Pat Broderick. The final issues, 125 is by Jim Rugin, and the final 5 issues is Dorian Crosser Jr. 121 is Craig Bracefield. The other issue discussed last time. These are others I forgot to talk about the last few videos. So here are all the artists they had throughout Volume 1. John Byrne did the first 28 issues. 29 to 31 is Mike Mignola. 32 is John Badorvine, who also works on Superman of Steel. Sal Busher does 33 to 34. The 35 to 44 is Dave Ross. 50 is June Bergerman. Jim Lee. Yes, Jim Lee. True issues 51-62. Hugh Haynes to 65-68. 69 to 71 and 73-76 and 17-82, 84-85 is John Kumi. 72 is Gary Tolick. Haru Thomas does 77. Jim Sherman does 83. Mark Bagley does 86. Michael Barr does 87-91, 93-95, and 97-100. 92 is Dan Reed. Michael Adams does 96. Tom Morgan does 101-105 and 107-109. 106 is Mark Pija. Craig Baxter does 113-121. Pat Broderick does 110-112, 114-120, 122-124. Jim Rigg 125, and the last 5 issues, Daryl Carson Jr. Wow, that's a lot. Yep. And from what I've heard anyways, related to Alpha Flight, is that anytime they have attempt to bring back the series, it never captures the same glory as this volume. This volume was basically the series peak. It's like, maybe more was embarrassed the fact they had to end this book when they did. As for why it ended, my guess is it could have been due to low sales, or that's probably the issue they probably choose to end it. If I get a chance to meet Simon Furman, maybe he'll answer that question. But as for people who worked in this book, have I met anybody working this book? For the writers, Yes, I have met two of them. Fitnesses and Scott Lobdell. Yeah, those are the two I have ever met. How about the artist? That's a good question. I've only met one. Pat Broderick, who's a really good artist, by the way. Those are the ones I've met. I've not met anybody else. Oh yeah, by the way, the book layer leads into a North Star miniseries. I probably will go through that next, and then move on to Volume 2. It's kind of interesting, though, they end the ongoing just to give North Star a miniseries. Does anybody find that weird? Like, you asked him the question, like, okay, so they ended Alpha Flight just to give North Star, the character who just recently outed as gay, just 2 years prior to the end of the series, and they give him something afterwards? You're like, really? Yes, really. I don't really know why they did this for. I mean, information I've looked up, I don't think the book was canceled due to low sales. No, I don't think so. You probably think it's the 90s. Was it low sales? No. I'm sure the book was doing really well. The burst, from what I heard, the collapse that happened around like 95-ish is basically when this happened. Yeah. But I do find it kind of weird that, like I said, North Star. That he gets the book like right after this. Yeah, it is. Let's see. It came out in February. Let's see. It was like 1 month later we had the launch of this mini series for North Star. Yeah, it was like right afterward. I'll be discussing this some later point. Yes, I'll be discussing this. But like, okay, so they give North Star something to do, but nobody else? Kind of weird. And it is. It's sad. But so I read here, apparently, him being outed was actually very positively received. Yeah. But that's kind of it when it comes to Alpha Flight. Well, the first time, anyways. I will be discussing, like I said, I was discussing North Star miniseries next, and then it'll be Alpha Flight Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, and finally Volume 5 at some point. But look at these volumes are not very long, actually. Not really, no. So yeah, that's particularly a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do the like button. Oh, I give the Final 10 issues a 10 out of 10. Next up, talk about the final episode of Wrong with Halo Magic, another comic corner, and finally it'll be on to That Time of Crisis Slime. Okay, next video. Bye.